trying to shepherd them in. We have like 40 people next door.
Well, the first psalm we do is about shepherding.
Yeah.
Well, they don't have to come right at the beginning. Unless you want them to. I mean, you tell me.
I would like to, do you have a lot of her sisters here. She's going to speak. And so you're going to see that
Okay. Shabbat Shalom. Welcome to everyone who is from the Beth Israel congregation community, and welcome to everyone who is visiting to celebrate this beautiful weather and to celebrate a family in the position of watching their third child reach the age of responsibility. Will you join me on page 13 for Shalom Aleichem? Shalom Aleichem, Malachei HaSharet, Malachei Elyon, Melech Malachei Hamlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Boachem l'shalom, Malachei HaShalom, Malachei Elyon. Mi melech malachei hamlachim hakadosh baruch hu. Page 13. Baruch hu ni l'shalom malachei hashalom malachei elyon. Mi melech malachei hamlachim hakadosh baruch hu. Seichem l'shalom, malachei hashalom, malachei elyon. Mi melech malachei hamlachim hakadosh baruch hu. regulars here at Beth Israel Congregation know the Hasidic one of the Hasidic interpretations of Shalom Aleichem, which is it is a family wishing for, it's not a family, it's a couple wishing for a child. And they put the energy out in the universe, so Shalom Aleichem, shalom to you. And then when a soul shows interest in our tradition and our folklore, it is the child that chooses the parents, not the other way around. So the tradition is the parents are putting in their love, they're putting out this energy of Shalom Aleichem, of shalom to you. And it was customary, continues to be customary in Jewish tradition that Friday night is a night of romance. And then when a soul like Madeline shows interest in the heavens from the well of souls and says, those two people, maybe they're the right people to be in their family, the love says to them, Boachem l'shalom, come this way. Boachem means to come. Come in peace to us. And then the baby comes and it's raised to this weekend. And when you reach the age of bar or bat mitzvah, you are at the third verse, Barchuni l'shalom, which is now that you've reached this age of the transition to adulthood, I realize you are the blessing to me. Barchuni l'shalom says, instead of me blessing you, I bow and you bless me. I am the receiver of your blessings. You are capable of bestowing blessings. And then at the end of high school or at the end of college, you are at the fourth verse. Seitchem l'shalom. We craved you. We babysat you for God. We've been the receiver of your blessings. But now we have to release you into the universe. Seitchem l'shalom. It is time for you to go in peace and be a blessing to others. It is my honor to invite up Sylvia and Madeline at this time for the lighting of the Shabbat candles. Will you please rise? And as the candles are being lit, will you make a silent wish for this family, for this Shabbat? We turn in the prayer book to page 15. There are two parts of the service. We're at the poetry part, the warm-up part. And in these psalms that lead us up to the formal liturgy, which is the second half, they're very much about entering into the spirit of Shabbat. L'chun Ranana was used as this psalm, Psalm 95, was the pilgrim psalm for most of Jewish history. For those who made a pilgrimage to Jerusalem, they would say this psalm upon arrival all through the last 2,000 years. And so it's known as the pilgrim psalm. We have arrived at Shabbat. We've arrived at a moment that if I know Sylvia and Scott even a little, there's been a lot of planning going on for this voyage to reach this moment. So this is a psalm of saying, we've arrived. Traditionally, you would put down your baggage to say words of gratitude for arriving at this holy space and this holy time. So now it is Shabbat. Whatever you haven't done yet, whatever photocopies didn't get made, whatever people didn't get picked up at the airport, whatever's going on, right? Whatever Hebrew word you're not sure you know. At this point, you let it go. Do not worry. Everything that happens on Shabbat was meant to happen on Shabbat in this way. Anything that you're producing. So at this point, as we enter Shabbat together, we enter unburdened by worry so that we can experience gratitude. Sing with me. Naria litzor yishenu nekadma fana b'toda Bizmirot nari alon. As the psalmist goes down, the psalmist says, let God be the shepherd and let us be the flock. I think that must be hard for Sylvia because I think she's an excellent shepherdess. I imagine she's been shepherding people to this corner and to that corner, making sure everyone has been watered and fed. And so I ask us to let it go to God at this point. All the preparations are done. Let God be our shepherd. Let us enjoy the fruits of the land and the beauties that the world offers. At the bottom of the page, we sing the final 3 verses in which God interrupts the poet in order to say, there was a time back in the wilderness that the past generations, they saw the wonders that I'd offered, and yet they always complained and thus chased away my spirit. And that is why we do not complain on Shabbat. We make a promise for the next 25 or so hours. The things that happen are beautiful. And the food is all perfectly tasty and exactly the right temperature. And the people that are here, exactly the people who are supposed to be here. And the people I'm sitting with and talking to are exactly the people I'm supposed to be doing that with. So let's sing those 3 lines and keep that in mind. Arba'im shana akud bedor Bomar amto elevavim vehem lo yadu derachai asher nishbati v'yapi im yavun el menuchati. We imagine ourselves as with special ears as the psalms coming up float by. Special ears that hears all the sounds around us as God hears them, which is as music. The sound of our own breathing, the sound of blood rushing through veins, the sound of birds, the sounds of trees, everything that fills the ocean and streams and the sky, the insects in the meadow. The next few psalms say all of that is heard as a beautiful music by God. So we continue the listening, hearing the sounds of Madeline, the sounds that transform from sometimes we still hear a faint echo of the sound of the child. Often we hear the sound of an adult, and that is part of the music as well. As we continue through the Psalms, that was Psalm 96, and we go to Psalm 97. Smoke and clouds sometimes prevent me from hearing the beautiful sound of creation, the music that is praise of God, because there's injustice in the world. But we must remember that even in the Torah, here in the book of Numbers that we are in, God speaks from a cloud. So let not the chaos and injustice shield us from knowing that God is present. And we continue on, God has worked wonders. The sea is full of the sounds praising God and all of the world's and nature's inhabitants. We continue into page 19. May I be like my ancestors who sometimes put aside their intellect in order to feel their way toward God's presence. And finally, on page 20, preparation for Lachadodi, even in life's storms, God is present in the transformations that take us from one place to another. That brings us to Lachadodi on page 21. And before we sing it, we'll share a poem that I often share, especially with families like mine, with 3 children. Do it from memory. I'll do it in English instead of Hebrew, and it's from Yehuda Emichai. Like a ship's captain who shows the VIP guests to the engine room of the giant ship and proudly displays the massive engine machinery with the pistons going up and down and up and down. So am I a parent showing my dinner guests to the bedroom of my 3 children where they are asleep. And I open the door nudge and I have them look in, and we see 3 children in bed, and their breathing of their bodies lifts them up and down and up and down. And that is our grandeur. We're at Lachadodi on page 21. Please join me for a few verses. At the end, we'll be standing up and really saying we are ready to be fully inviting the spirit of Shabbat tonight. Lecha dodi likra kala, b'nei Shabbat nekabela, shamor v'zachor, edibor echad hishmianu, el hamiuchad Adonai echad, u'shemo echad l'shem multiferet, v'litila, lecha dodi likra kala, b'nei Shabbat nekabela, bikrat Shabbat, lechuvenecha ki mekor, haberacha merosh mikedem, nesucha sof maaseh, v'machshava tefila, lecha dodi likra kala, b'nei Shabbat nekabela, mikdash melech, Melucha kumitzei mitocha hafecha harav lachshevet be'emek abacha v'hu yachamol alayichem la lecha dodi lihikra kahala b'nei Shabbat. Middle of 22. Yamin usmaol tifrohot ziviet Adonai Tarihitzi al yadish ben parzi b'nismecha b'nagila lecha dodi. Please rise. Kakahala. We face the back. Nekabela bovi v'shalom atere bala gam besimcha uvetzohala toch emune aham segula bovi chala bovi kahala lecha dodi likra kahala pene Shabbat nekabela. We may be seated. We've just had our little wedding ceremony of us in the spirit of Shabbat. So may we feel that extra spirit carrying us through the next 25 or so hours. We turn to page 23 for the Shabbat Song. Mizmor shir, shir liyom ha-Shabbat. Mizmor shir, shir liyom ha-Shabbat. Tov lehodot l'Adonai, ulezamer l'shimcha ha'elyon, lehagi b'boker chastecha, b'emunatcha b'alelot. Mizmor shir, shir liyom ha-Shabbat. Mizmor shir, shir liyom ha-Shabbat. The words we just sang, the second line is probably my favorite line in any of the Psalms. And it says that we show our connection to God in the morning, starting the day with words of love and kindness, words of hope, optimism. As I say, although I admit sometimes at home I say it when I'm really expecting tragedy, I say, it's going to be great. It's going to be great, even when I think it's going to be a disaster. And so we start the day with, it's going to be great. And we end the day with emunah. We end the day with, you can trust me. I will be there for you. And so on a special weekend like this, it's like, to me, that summarized the challenges of my parenting in so many ways, which is, can I be the one that wakes up my children in the morning with that optimism and love? And then at night, know that they're not alone and that I will be there for them. It's what we have the relationship with God, and it's a challenge to ourselves. The bottom of the page, we're singing the final 4 lines, that those who are planted in the soil of rich and deep values will grow strong in those values. Tzadikata amar yifra ke'erez balvanon iske shetulin behevet Adonai bechatzrot Eloheinu Yahar Yashar Adonai, Tsuri, Tsuri, Lo Avlatavo. That concludes the first half of the service. And so we have our first of our two mourners' Kaddishes. On this Shabbat, this weekend, Beth Israel congregation remembers the Yortzites of Gershon Amster, Robert Bartfeld, Sarah Berman, Wilmos Berman, James Joseph Blah, Seymour Bodner, Leon Cooper, Gertrude Dwoskin, I.D. Fried, Annette Fried, Morris Friedman, Rose Gershowitz, Pearl Goldman, Isaac Hirsch, Molly Ingber, Florence Carlin, Rebecca Kishlansky, Nettie Kessel, Craig William Lampier, Henry Levin, Myrtle Malamud, Celia Martin, Herman Martin, Elaine Matler, Morris Meyerstein, Harry Milstein, Dorothy Newman, Eva Perlman, Louis Perlov, Avram Pinals, Sam Pitkin, Cheryl Rosner, Sarah Schoen, Jean Chevron, Richard Simon, Meyer Stern, Jack Wasserman, Edward Weiss, May Wolf, David Young, Joseph Zalian, and Leon Swerdling. As we continue to say Kaddish for Elaine Stoller, Natalie Scher, Susan Feingold Schultz, Judith Cashton, Lorraine Sherman, Michael Adams, Leona Leon, Phyllis Werbel, Fanchin Lessing, Carol Feinerman, David Bauman, Bruce Stahl, Carol Amster, Gary Joseph Ullman, Paul Ernest Phillips, Leslie Garber Matthews, Alan Fisherman, Raisa Levinskaya, Ellis Cohen, Toby Barbin Rothaus, and Vivian Perlstein. For those who are reciting the Mourner's Kaddish, please rise and recite with me on the bottom of 24. Yikadam v'yikadash shemei Rabbah, v'yamha divrach kirute, v'yamlich malchute, v'chayechon uvyomechon uv'chaye dechol Beit Yisrael, ba'agala uvizman kari v'imru. Amen. Yehe shmei Rabbah mevorach le'olam olameh amaya. Yibarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh. V'yitadar, v'yitaleh, v'yitalal, shmei d'kudeshav, brichu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, da'amiran v'alma v'imru. Amen. Yehe shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael, v'imru. Amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu v'al kol Yisrael, v'imru. Amen. I invite everyone to rise. We're on page 28 for the beginning of the evening part of the service. We are seated and continue silently. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher b'shamayim. Umavir yom umevi laila, mavdil ben yom uven laila, Adonai tzvaot shemo el chai v'kayam, tamid yimloch aleinu le'olam va'ed, Baruch atah Adonai, hama'arihi v'aravim. On page 29, we just added in all of the stars and the energies of the universe into the music of nature. And on 29, we are one page away from the Shema. And so before we get our human solo of saying we know that we're listening like God is listening, and we know that the energies and the stars and nature, it's all part of one system, we get a special little prayer right here that says, it's an act of love we feel from the universe that we get to understand it. That we're like we might be, who knows, the only species or organism in the universe that has the sentience to understand that we live in one system, and even figuring out the pieces of the wisdom of how it works, which was in the previous prayer. And so that is an act of love that we feel, and we should experience learning as being loved. Ahavat olam Beit Yisrael Amcha ahavta Torah u'mitzvot chukim u'mishpatim otanu limadeta Al kein Adonai Eloheinu b'shachveinu u'vekumeinu נשיח בחוקיך, ונשמח בדברי תורתך, ובמצוותיך לעולם ועד. כי הם חיינו ויורך ימינו, יורך ימינו, ובהם נגע יומם ולילה. And at this time, I invite up Madeline Baker to come by my side and ignore all my papers and stand right there. And Madeline is going to recite, and we'll join in with her on page 30 for the Shema. And then she'll lead us, and we'll all say the V'ahavta together. So if we feel love from the universe because of our ability to understand the wisdom of it and how to live, we return that love by teaching and by parenting. So let's think of this as a way that she's honoring her parents tonight. Baruch atah Adonai, ohev amo Yisrael. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. V'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levacha u'b'chol nafshecha u'b'chol me'otecha v'hayu hadvarim ha'ele asher anochi mitzavecha hayom al levavecha v'shinantam levanecha v'divarta bam v'shivtecha b'veitecha uvlachtecha b'derech uv'shochbecha uv'kumecha uv'shartam li'ot al yadecha v'hayu l'totafot bein einecha uv'davtam al mezuzot beitecha uv'yisharecha. We read silently for the rest of 30, 31, and most of 32. Adonai Elohechem Emet. Middle of 32. Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai. Mi chamocha nedar b'kodesh. Norati lo tosei fele. Malchutecha ra'u vanecha bokeyam lifnei Moshe. Te'eli hanu v'yameru. Adonai yimlo. Leolam va'en, v'ne'emar kifada Adonai Yaakov, v'golim chazak mimenu, baruch atah Adonai, ka'ahal Yisrael. Let's read the top of page 33 together in English. It's the prayer that asks for protection over those who are suffering tonight, maybe from hunger, maybe from sickness, maybe from fear. Let's read together. Help us, Adonai, to lie down in peace, and awaken us again, our sovereign, to life. Spread over us your shelter of peace. Guide us with your good counsel. Save us because of your mercy. Shield us from enemies and pestilence, from starvation, sword, and sorrow. Remove the evil forces that surround us. Shelter us in the shadow of your wings, O God, who watches over us and delivers us, our gracious and merciful ruler. Guard our coming and our going. Grant us life and peace now and always. Spread over us the shelter of your peace. Praised are you, Adonai, spreads the shelter of peace over us, over all your people Israel, over Jerusalem, and over the entire world. Page 34. V'shamru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat v'dorotam berit olam be'eni uvein b'nei Yisrael oti le'olam ki sheshet yamim asa Adonai et hashamayim v'et haaretz uvayom hashmi'i Shabbat vayinavash. The main thing left in tonight's service is our standing silent time. We can either do prayers from the liturgy, although I'm required to do those on behalf of everybody, and that frees you up to have your own prayers, improvise your own thoughts of your soul on the Shabbat. So before we do the Kaddish and get to our silent standing prayer time, instead of a teaching tonight, I've picked a poem I'd like to read. And the reason is because of Madeline. So I've been very honored to, I love working with our 13-year-olds. They have, they're amazing. And Madeline is amazing. And I like to listen. I like to teach. I talk too. I like to say, this is what I think is going on in the Torah portion and hear what is important to them. And one of the things I heard Madeline talk about a lot was the importance of environmental justice and really, really connecting with the Torah's teachings and our own consciences of our need to protect the environment in ways that we have not done before, and to draw upon wisdom. So I picked a poem that deals with the themes of the Friday night service that we've already gone over and connected those to that. And it is by a poet that I just discovered named Marta Riskin, who's from Argentina. And I'm going to invite up at this time my Spanish readings, not so great. I'm going to ask for some of it to be read in Spanish and some of it I'll read in English. Thank you so much. This is the first time you're seeing this, so if you make any mistakes, blame me. And so could you read from there to there? Yeah, exactly. I'm gonna do it in English after you do that. So for those who don't know Spanish, you're not going to understand anything until I talk to you in a little bit. Yeah, if you're the one presenting on the BML, you're allowed to remove your mask.
Yo, el árbol, voy a contarle una historia. Es una historia antigua que está en el presente y camina hacia tu futuro. Los conocen los grillos y la contemplan emocionadas en sus viajes las estrellas fijas. Dan fe de ella los manuscritos con que los hombres han perpetuado antiguos mensajes. Ahora es necesario que tú la recuerdes. También he dudado, ¿qué tenemos en común? Yo, árbol, y tú, humano. ¿Cuál lengua comparten una estrella y un grillo? ¿Qué podrían saber nuestro sol de otros soles? Individualizamos por el lenguaje, cerrados por nuestras fronteras, aprendiendo a través de distintos órganos de percepción. ¿Qué nos acercará? ¿Cómo darte algo más que mis frutos? ¿Cómo recibir algo distinto a tus cuidados? Y tu sierra. De todos modos lo intentaré. Cumple esperanza no olvido. Los antiguos dicen, en el comienzo, el creador único y solitario en su bondad decidió decir y dijo luz y la luz se hizo y la separó de las sombras. Dijo cielos, tierra y mares. Y vio que era bueno. Dijo plantas y árboles y nos creó. Dijo animales y fueron vivos. Mas el hombre lo formó a su imagen y semejanza para que lo nombrara, cuidara y reservara para sus criaturas. Y entonces descansó. y celebró lo creado. Enamorado de su obra, el Creador esperaba que el hombre también esperaba al hombre también la amara sintiendo la alegría y la belleza de cada ser, para que pudiera compartir tanto amor del propio costado del hombre, de sus huesos y su sangre. El Señor modeló la mujer. Era la edad de la inocencia. Ni siquiera advirtieron que al manipularse renunciaban a parte de sí mismos sutiles notas musicales que iluminaban de alegría su mundo.
So remember, we were the Psalms, nature is talking, the trees are talking, and can we hear them? From Martha Riskin, he who fulfills hopes. I, the tree, am going to tell you a story. It's an ancient story that exists in the present and moves toward the future. The crickets know it, and they contemplate the fixed stars, excited by their voyages. They put their faith in it, the manuscripts with which men have perpetuated ancient messages, our prayers. Now it is necessary that you remember it. I have doubted it too. What do we have in common, I, tree, and you, human? What language do a star and a cricket share? Wisdom of the universe. What could our sum know of other suns? We individualize by language and by our borders, learning through distinct organs of perception. What will come near us? How can I give you more than my fruits? How to receive something different from your affection and your saw? In any case, I will try to speak to you. He fulfills hopes, doesn't forget. He said light and there was light, and he separated it from shadows. He said plants and animals and created us. He said they were alive. But man he formed in his image and likeness so that we too could name, and we too could care for and set aside the creatures. And then he rested and celebrated the creation. In love with his work, the Creator hoped that man would also hope. The Creator hoped that man would also love. The Creator hoped that man would also have the feeling of the joy and the beauty of every being. I'm just going to skip to the end a little bit. But you, humans, forgot how to take nutrition from the tree of life. That in the center, from the sweet fruit of knowledge to integrate life, from the knowing that comes from uniting, giving hugs, and revering everly one of the works of the Creator. The ancients say that for strange motives, man didn't know how to thank and appreciate that which was given to him without his own doing. And so he would have to learn the difference between good and evil to find the tree of life again. How long it would be for man to construct a way of return. It was difficult to help him. His vibrations had gone so far from ours, the trees. He missed us without recognizing our relationship. And with the patience that the Lord taught us, we sent signals. We covered the green of our leaves. We weakened our trunks. It was painful to accompany the human pain with ours. The Ancient One say that one day man will help lean his hands on my body, will see as far as my soul, and will remember our common history. He will know that he is my guardian and my friend. And then we will reach fantastic universes. Madeline, I invite you up to join me for the Chatzi Kaddish on page 34. Please rise, and then we'll head into silent contemplation and prayer. Yikada v'yikada shemei Rabba B'yama dirav kirute v'yamlich malchute B'chayechon u'yomechon u'chaye dechol Beit Yisrael ve'imeru, amen. Yehi shmei rabba mevara, li'ala ulam me'amaya. Yiparach v'ishtabach v'yipar v'truma v'naseh v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shemei dekudeshah le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nefemata damiran li'ama v'imeru. Silent prayer 35b to 38, or your own personal thoughts. When you're finished your prayers, you may be seated, but don't let us stop you from finishing them. While some are finishing their prayers, would the rest of you join me in reading in English on page 48 at the top? Our God and God of our ancestors, find favor in our Shabbat rest. Instill in us the holiness of your mitzvot, and let your Torah be our portion. Fill our lives with your goodness, gladden us with your triumph. Cleanse our hearts so that we might serve you faithfully. Lovingly and willingly, Adonai, our God, grant that we inherit your holy Shabbat, so that the people Israel who hallow your name will always find rest on this day. Praised are you, Adonai, who hallow Shabbat. Baruch atah Adonai, mekadesh ha-Shabbat. Yikadav yikadash shemei rabba, v'yamad yivrakirte, v'yamlich malchute, b'chayachon v'yimechon v'chayiducho beit Yisrael, b'galav izman kari v'imeru. Amen. Yehi shmei rabba mevarach, v'alam ulam me'omaya. Yiparach v'yishtabach v'yipar v'yitramam v'naseh v'yitadar v'yitala v'yitala shmei dekudesha le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tishbechata v'nechemata damiram be'ama v'imeru tikabal tzloton v'aton d'chol Yisrael kol adam avahon divishmaya v'imeru yehesh lama rabba min shemaya v'chayim aleinu v'kol Yisrael v'imeru oseh shalom b'mromav hu yaseh shalom Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'imeru. Amen. Please rise for Aleinu, page 51. Aleinu l'shabeach We may be seated except for those reciting Mourner's Kaddish. If you are reciting with me, you're standing on page 52. Yit Gadol, V'yit Kadash, Shemei Rabbah, V'yalma Divra Kirute, V'yamlich Machute, V'chayechon, Uvyomechon, Uv'chaye Dechol Beit Yisrael, V'agala, Uvizman Kari, V'imru. Amen. Yehe Shmei Rabbah Mevarach Leolam Ulamed Amaya. Yiparach v'yishtabach v'yipa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yithadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal Shmei Kedusha Rihu Le'ela min kol berchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata da'amiran v'ama v'imru. Yehe Shlama Rabbah min Shemaya v'chayim aleinu v'yakol Yisrael v'imru. V'aseh shalom b'mromav hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu v'yakol Yisrael v'imru. May their memories continue to bring blessings to this world. Before our closing song of Adon Olam, I'm going to invite Madeline up in a moment. And I got to tell you, we didn't rehearse the melody, so we'll figure it out when it's up here. And I know a lot of them, so whatever you start, I'm going to be good with. And so before I do, I just want to, the main announcement I want to make, because I don't have to announce Madeline's bat mitzvah, because that's in the morning and you know it, but is that Shavuot is also this weekend. So on Saturday night, starting at 8 p.m., we'll be here for starting with Mariv and heading directly into our Tikkun. We'll be having multiple teachers from the area and some teachers that probably people here have not had a chance to study with before, and we're looking forward to that. So it will not be hybrid. There will be in-person learning to choose from, as well as in-person cheesecake to eat. And there will also be two Zoom sessions. I'll be leading the first one at approximately 8:15, and Jenny Traig will be leading the second one. So if you're only joining by Zoom, you don't have a choice, and the cheesecake is virtual in that case. So, and then of course, services on Sunday morning and Monday morning for first and second day Shavuot. So with that, it's my honor to call it Madeline for Adon Olam. And do you want to stand the microphone? Okay, I'll do the microphone tonight. It is mine. Good. Let's do it. You told me that before. Adon Olam Asher Hala B'terem Kol Yitzir Nivra Li'et Nasa B'Vefso Kol Vehu haya, vehu hove, vehu yeh b'tifara, vehu echad v'ein sheni, lehamshil lo lehachbira, v'li reshit, v'li tachlit, v'lo ha'oz v'ha'misra, v'hu eli v'chai go'ali, v'tzor chavli b'ein tzara, v'hu nisi humanos li, menakosi b'yom ekra, b'yahado afkid ruhi, be'eti shan bi'a'ira, be'im ruhi. Let's finish strong. Adonai li v'lo ira. Shabbat shalom. We'll see you in the morning.
Shabbat shalom, everybody.